I'm Brian English, forum name Hyperbytes, and we're now going to pull everything together that we've learnt in this latest module, part 15 of Introduction to Wappler Extensions. We're going to use the knowledge that we already have. We're going to build on it. We're going to take a bit of code from the Google's own website, and we're going to build a very simple Gemini AI interface module. Couple of things we need to do. First, we need to check that we're running a late enough version of Node. We're going to install an npm through the package manager, and once we do that, we'll start building the code. You'd be amazed how easy this is going to be. So what I'm going to do now is just check that our environment is ready. So I need to check the Node version that we're running. If you check on Gemini API guides, etc., you'll see that it needs a minimum of Node version 18. So I'm just going to ask it which version of Node we currently have, and you see I'm running Node 22. So it's absolutely no problem there. It's 18 onward is what we're looking for. If you're running an older version of Node, you'll need to update that. I'm not going to go into that here because obviously that's platform specific, but there's plenty of information on the Wappler forum in relation to how to do that. So the first thing we need to do is just have a look and see what npm we're going to integrate with and add that to our package. Okay, so I popped over to Google AI for Developers in the Gemini API section, and we look at the Getting Started, and if I just scroll down, you'll see here is the npm that we need to install. You can install it directly with that command. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually install it through the proper Wappler package manager, but it really doesn't matter which way around you do it. I just think that the package manager is there to be used, so let's use that. So I'll just drag that off screen. I'll go into extensions. I will add an extension. Whoop, that's not what I wanted. Save that. I'm going to hit save, and there we are. That API will be installed. I've got to apologize. I'm sitting on a really slow connection. I'm having a few connection difficulties here. But there we are. That's it. That's installed. What we need to do now is to sort out our API key. So if I pop back into Google AI, you'll see a section API keys. This is a problem I'm having. There we are. Get an API key, and we can literally create an API key by either using existing project if you've got any going, or by creating it. And I'll just point out here that there is this is a chargeable service using Gemini. Some countries they have a free tier, some countries you don't, so you're probably going to have an account with the with Google to do this, but don't panic because I don't think they charge you anything up to about 1 million tokens, so you're not going to get horrible huge bills, provided of course you keep that all important API key secret. So how we're going to deal with the API key? Well, I'm just going to swap project for the moment here because I obviously don't want to show off my I'll just give this a second to bring its service up. I haven't used this for a while. I think I've changed Node version since then. What I want to do is just to go in here, we're going to go into environment, and I'm going to create a new key. And what this is going to be is Gemini API key, into which we paste the value of the API key. Because I'm going to be using that environment variable within our JS script to be able to access that setting. The reason I've done it in a different project is purely because I don't want to risk revealing my key for obvious reasons. So I'll just change project was the easiest way of doing it. So I'll go back into my extensions. I can show you that has been set within my workflows. We can see now we have that extension as npm installed, so we're actually ready to start looking at coding because our environment is now currently set. Okay, so I'm back into my project. I've been into my workflows, I've been into my Server Connect settings, I've been in the environment, and I have added that Gemini API key environment variable. Obviously not going to show you that. And what I've done is I've taken the liberty of creating a couple of files. I've created Gemini JSON and Gemini JS. Nothing in these that I haven't taught you in previous modules. Let's have a look at Gemini JSON first. Type Gemini module in action I've just set to Gemini. So obviously in the JS we're going to export Gemini. Define a group. I've created a new group called AI modules. Already got that in place elsewhere because I also have a ChatGPT module which I published some time ago on the forum. I have the actual actions title and icon, and you see I've got there FA brain, and I'm using comp loops. That's the color that's used in data transformations. Thought that perhaps fit. I've defined that this is server model node. There isn't sample code for Gemini available for PHP. Data picker object true. That means that the actual name itself will be pickable by the data picker, which is important because that's where the data is going to end up. Got a data schema. I don't like that. I'm just going to call that result. Just a bit prettier. And then we go on to properties, and all we do is we've got a couple of inputs. We've got our mandatory name input. Sorry, our group first, then our mandatory name input within variables. And we're just going to give that the base name of Gemini 1. We have a simple text input, which I've just called my question. That's a question we will be sending to the AI. Because we can, really, I suppose. I've just given you a drop down to choose between Gemini 1.5 Flash or Gemini 1.5 Pro. I've defaulted that to Gemini 1.5 Flash. And then lastly, we have the output checkbox. Very, very simple JSON, nothing complicated about it at all. There is only one thing we need to add, and that is because we are using a dependency, we've got to tell it that we're doing that. So we're just going to pop that in after the schema. We're going to say used modules. And then what we're going to do is we will just define the modules we're using and which platform that they will be used on. So we're going to say node, because this is a node. As I say, there isn't a PHP version of this available from Google. And we're going to tell it what that extension is. And that is the extension that we installed. So it's Google/generative-ai. Google generative-ai, yep, just making sure that's correct. And we can optionally add a version. And what I'm going to say is that I want it to be version 0.15.0, which is the current version upwards. So we've added that one section now. We've looked at user modules, and we've told it that we're going to have to use that module, and basically it will check that it's there for us. Okay, this is actually a quick post-production or pre-production edit, because when watching this through before publishing, I noticed a spelling mistake, and that should actually say used modules. Doesn't affect the rest of this tutorial, but if we were then to send it off to the NPM repository, then because we'd misspelt that, the Google Generative AI dependency would not be installed on install, which obviously would be a bit of a problem. So you'll see throughout the rest of the tutorial it will still say user, but that most certainly must be used. So I'll save that. And that, guys and girls, is the HJSON done. That was incredibly simple. We're ready to rock. So let's go over to the JS itself. I'm not a brilliant JS programmer. I'm first to accept that. And I'm really happy when I can take some code from somewhere else and use somebody else's code that way. And that's exactly what I'm going to do here, because I'm in our Google AI for developers. Quick start, and you'll see two little bits of code here. That is the initialization of the module. So I'm just going to be really lazy here, and I'm going to paste that in. And then I'm going to go back in and look. Here's our generative text, make our first request. This is going to be a basic use of Gemini. There are lots of things it can do, like compare images and you name it, but we're just keeping this simple because I don't want this to turn into some massive JS tutorial as opposed to the extensions tutorial it's meant to be. Right, so let's have a look and see what we've got. First of all, we're going to require that Google Generative AI code first. That makes sense. Then we're going to include the API key. Now I've called that Gemini API key because I also have a OpenAI API key, and I intend to quickly knock up a Claude version after this, so we'll have a Claude API key as well ultimately. We'll define which model we're going to use, and it defaults so that the default in the code is Gemini 1.5 Flash, but of course we are going to be able to amend that, and we're going to use the whatever service we've sent. So I'm going to change that to options, and the name of basically the drop down that we had in our HJSON, which is going to be Gemini _ service. And that way it will use the service that we have specified in the drop down, so we're able to change between the two. Save that while we're there. This is the area where we have a very little problem, but we have a little problem, and it's all about scope really. So up here, before we're running this function, we are in basically what let's call it, to keep things simple, the Wappler scope. And within the function, we're in function run scope. We want to use this parse required statement, but if we try to do it inside the function, that's going to be outside of scope. So I'm just going to take that out or move it. I'm going to cut, and I'm going to just pop it outside that function. And then I'm going to parse that variable that we sent. So I'm going to be saying this, because we're in the right scope now. Parse required. And then we're going, what are we going to parse? We're going to parse options dot, and remember we call it my question. So this is the input we're parsing. So options, my question. I'm going to just keep things simple. I'm going to say accept any data type, and then we're going to give that error message. No question. Sorry, I've just caught the caps lock there. No question asked. So we pass that into prompt. So the question that's going to be asked is now in prompt, and we just need to pass that over to our function. So I'm going to say function run now has a parameter. We'll just keep the same name, and when we run it, we're going to send prompt to it. Just going to take that console log text out, because I'm not going to be console logging it. We're actually going to return it from the function. We're going to return the text. So, talk you through this function. It takes the result, and it sends it to our generate content, which is basically the Gemini call. It awaits the response, because that's a promise. Then when we've got its response, we're going to have that text set to response text. Then we return that text. And I'm just going to play safe here, I think. What I'm going to say is result equals run prompt, and then I'm going to return result. And I've deliberately matched that to the scheme that we have here. Okay, so I suppose that is time to do a test. Let's see if I get this right. You can play some little side bets. Will this work first time? I'm going to just now restart Wappler, and I'll be back in one moment. Right, so we've done the Wappler restart. Everything should now be active. So I'm just going to open. I've created a blank API action called Gemini. Click on that, go down to AI modules, and we'll select Gemini. I'm just going to hard code a question in. We're going to say, what is Wappler IO? Obviously we want an output. I'm going to save that. Moment of truth. Let's fire that up and see what happens. Slight pause is good. That means that Gemini is hopefully working. And there we are. We've got a response. I'll just format that up. And there we are. We've got a response. Wappler IO is a powerful, comprehensive web development platform. Notice it's got lots of stars all over the place, which is probably going to cause chaos. I'm sort of assuming that that's maybe markdown language. I don't want markdown. So what I'll do is I'm going to just reply in p tags, and we'll tell it to use BR for line breaks. Save that. Let's fire that up. There we are. That looks so much better, doesn't it? You'll see we've got our paragraph within p tag. We've got our breaks, and that will be more usable within a web page. That was awfully easy, wasn't it? That really is showing you the power of Wappler extensions and how we can integrate external libraries very, very easily and add immensely powerful functionality with literally less than a dozen lines of code, about a dozen lines of code. So that's Gemini module finished. Just as an aside, so you're aware, I've got ChatGPT online now, I've got Gemini online. I'll be doing a Claude module as well. I will commit them to NPMs, as I will this particular Gemini one. I'll commit them to the NPM repository. And then once I've got all three running, what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate all three of them, I hope, into a single extension. So not only will we be able to specify the version of the AI service that you are using, you'll be able to also select the service, and provided that I can get that working properly, we'll have basically a universal AI development project. I would suggest that you go into the Gemini dev page and have a look, because there's a lot more sample code and there's a lot of really clever things that you can do, and you can literally just copy and paste the code over if you want, and then if you're a JS person, tweak that code. I mean, at the moment, for instance, there's actually no error catching, etc. But I really just say don't want to turn this into one long JS tutorial. So I hope you enjoyed watching this, because I've certainly enjoyed making it, and I'll see you in my next module.